thanks everybody for coming. Coach Smart will have a few opening remarks on the class and take some questions. And hopefully you've got some handouts, and you'll have some more later with all the wrap-up stuff. If you need it, just get with us up in the office. Thanks.
Thanks, Claude. I'll open with a pretty uneventful day, exciting uneventful day, if there is such a thing. To bring these new guys into the program is really exciting for us as a staff. You know, I don't think people realize out there how much goes into each kid. And if you counted the man hours, the phone calls, the text messages, the Saturdays and Sundays that people spend away from their families up here, I think it's pretty incredible the amount of time that goes into each one of these guys we're able to bring into our program. We're really excited. I first think the credit goes to our team. Our juniors that decided to stay built a lot of momentum for us in recruiting. I think anytime you've got players that decide to stay who have an opportunity to go to the NFL, it speaks volumes for their character and what they want to do for the University of Georgia, but it also helps in recruiting, because at the end of the day, good players recruit good players. And when your good players stay at your university, they help recruit the student athletes that are coming to your place. You know, our president, our administration was great. They spent countless hours visiting with our prospects when they were on campus. Our academic staff, you know, they have to be on call because they never know when somebody's going to come over. So for all the academic staff, all the members of our university administration who have spent hours convincing these young men that this is the place for you to further your education, means a ton to us. You know, from the training room, the coaches' wives, our staff works relentlessly at this event called recruiting. So to get these new young men coming into our program, we're excited. We think we attacked a lot of areas of concern for us. I think it's a good group. I think we did not deviate very far from our size criteria. When you look at certain positions, you want to get certain size guys. We were able to do that. We were able to hit some areas, especially on the offensive line, the defensive secondary, that we had some guys leave that we needed to replace. So all in all, it was a good class. Where we didn't succeed probably last year on the offensive front, we were able to succeed with a full recruiting cycle. But in this day and age, you got to do it again next year. So we've already started on that, and we spent a lot of time in January targeting younger guys so that we get ahead. But we're excited. I really am excited about the guys we got coming. I'm really excited about the guys we got here. You know, just to think about those 6 young men that are already here and get to see them work out each day, it fires me up. I'm fired up about this team because there's a lot of good football players and good character kids in it. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Raise your hand if you have a question.
Kirby said, you know, it was uneventful because the 23 guys previously stayed, but 2 of the guys that you got, Stokes and Speed, what do they offer? I don't think you can talk about the 3rd guy yet. I don't know if his letter's in, but it just came in. Okay. What do those 3 guys, especially at corner, add to what you're looking to do defensively?
Length, man. We had to get length, and you know, I think anytime you can get a 10'4", 10'5", 100-meter guy, plus 6 foot plus, 6'2", 6'3" in some cases. Good physicality, good strength. I think bulk is a big part of being a good DB nowadays. You're tackling Nick Chubb and Sonny Michel pretty much every week in the SEC. So when you got 180-pound guys, it's tough if you don't hit that 200-pound mark. So we think we attacked that area. We think we were very successful in getting some longer guys. Will they be ready to play next year? I sure hope so. You know, that's what they're hoping too. They want to come in here and compete. But we needed to get longer and bigger, to be able to match up some guys. And we hope those guys are able to do it, the 3 guys you mentioned.
Kirby, how much did it help to have you and your whole staff have an entire recruiting cycle in year, as opposed to, you know, in your first year you came in late around December with the college football playoff and everything. So how much did it help to have your staff take on this whole recruiting class?
Well, it's tremendous help. Obviously, you get a longer amount of time to spend with them. I don't think people know how deep we were into this class last year at this time. You know, I remember being at the national championship game, and during the time I got to recruit, I was on the phone with a lot of these guys because the target was, hey, we're going to go after these guys and get a really good class the full cycle. We knew it would be a tough adjustment last year to come in. We were able to save some guys last year, but we also didn't try to reach anybody at the end last year and reach out and throw out some things and save our scholarships for this year. So it paid off this year. We had a very good year in the state, which helped. It was especially a good year on the offensive line in the state. So that part helps, but the relationships you build always help. So having that full year gets a few more visits, a few more weekends, so you get a better relationship with the people if they decide to come to your place.
Coach, you stood like right here in the same spot. You kind of touched on it already last year, and you kind of limited what you were dealing with on the offensive line. These 6 guys, some highly touted guys, and I know you don't really believe in the ranking them before they get there. But can you just kind of talk about what you guys accomplished with the 6 guys that you got, and for the overall class, are you guys done at this point in the day?
Well, first of all, the O-line, I think it's exciting anytime you get a group like that. I'm very impressed with the stature of those guys. They've got to do a good job of controlling that between now and arrival here. Because only one of them's here right now, so those guys can't get too big. They've got to do a good job of getting in shape. They've got to learn quickly. We've got to do a good job developing those guys. And we've got to take the guys we got here and continue to get them better. We had several guys that had pretty good size last year that were redshirted that we're hoping to develop in the spring as well. So we're excited about those offensive line guys. Now, what I really like about them is I think for the most part, 4 or 5 of them only took one visit. So they knew where they wanted to go. And they were coming to the University of Georgia, and they wanted to come together. And I think a lot of that credit goes to Coach Pittman and the work he did forming relationships with each one of those guys. The second part of your question, as far as is it over or not, I mean, it's never over in recruiting. So, I mean, we're constantly recruiting, looking for more guys, trying to find things. And that's kind of an ongoing process all the time.
Coach, this is by my count 26, I guess, that you guys are bringing in. How are you doing on numbers, and or is there going to have to be some attrition for all these guys to fit your class?
You never really know, Chip, with things going on like they are in college football nowadays. You've got guys that are graduates that may transfer. You're always worried about guys coming and going, but we'll be fine with the 85.
Coach, when it comes to social media or anything else in terms of trying to recruit these guys, like certain programs putting up billboards of them, where do you stand on that? Do you anticipate you guys using that type of tactic down the road?
When you say social media, putting up billboard, you're talking about
Just like
prospects?
just using like social media, graphic design to kind of, I guess, put your program out there to these guys.
It's a big part of it. I mean, we all know, I know, the kids we recruit, I know from official visits, you can walk by a table and every kid will have his phone out, checking social media, using Snapchat, Facebook Live. I mean, it changes faster than I know what's going on. I can't wait for my kids to get that age so they can explain it to me, because I can't follow all the stuff going on. It happens so quick. I mean, last year, I think with Tyler Simmons, I was screaming loud on whatever it was called. I didn't even know what it was, So nowadays, you never know what the next step is, and I think staying a part of the cutting edge of recruiting is important because the kids like it, they enjoy it, and if you're going to communicate with them, you've got to be able to share in that same environment. So we'll do everything we can from our recruiting department to stay cutting edge and stay involved in those, but not real sure as far as billboards and stuff.
Coach, you mentioned the length on cornerback that you're bringing in. As far as wide receivers go, too, like you're trying to do the same thing, 6'2", 6'3", looks like what you're shooting for there, too.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, you'd like to have a tall, fast guy. Everybody wants a tall, fast guy. You want a big physical guy. We probably didn't get the Isaiah McKenzie type, the guy that can do those versatile things, and that's probably an area that we'll have to address, some kind of way, develop a guy on the team, find new ways to use some of our good players with the ball in their hands. But for the most part, we got big wide receivers. That's what we want. We want physical guys, and to improve our stature, that helps. You need both. When you have whatever 10, 11, 12 scholarships, you want some guys that can do both and have a little wiggle along with those big guys.
Cody, what kind of balancing act is it when you really only have a few spots left and you don't have a good much left, or there's some guys that are still looking at you have to select them where we don't have room for you, or what happens?
Yeah, it's really a challenge. I'll be honest with you. That's when you talk about being a head coach and you say the differences. That's probably the biggest difference in the recruiting part of the job. It's tough because a lot of people want to come to University of Georgia. We had a lot of momentum. We had a good class going. I had to put the reins on Richard, some of those guys, because I think they thought they could recruit everybody in the country. We got a limited number of spots, and those guys are pretty aggressive. But those are tough decisions, and you always look back, and I think we do a quality control of, each coach on our staff, they evaluate every player and they rank every player, whether we get them or not. And then 4 years from now, we come back and look at those. And we say, okay, who did we miss on? Why did we miss on them? And maybe who was right? Because maybe that guy's a better evaluator. But those are tough decisions that come down to the last 2 or 3 spots. And the timing of them are really hard. You spend a lot of long hours the last 2 or 3 nights. You know, sometimes even talking with coaches at other schools, just trying to share information about each other and where kids are going, even though we're competing. So you got better information to make the right decision. But I don't think people really know how deep that goes just from making that last final 2-3 decision.
Kirby, there's 2 D linemen. Would you have liked it to be more, or was it a product of y'all signed a lot last year? Or are you thinking of moving some guys to shore up numbers there, or are you not doing anything?
No, I certainly, everything is yes to what you just said. Would I like to have had more? Yes. Was I pleased with what we had last year? Yes. But ultimately, there's a limit that you can have, and we have a target area for each position, and we're kind of on our target area in that position. I don't think you ever turn down a good defensive lineman. They're just hard to come by, and it's really hard to get those guys. I mean, the top 5, 6 in the country, they're always the most competitive guys to get, because that's the hardest position to find. We did try to target more athletic, faster, twitch guys like I think Devontae Wyatt's that way. He can run. He's got some quickness. Malik's that way. He can run. He's got some quickness. We hope some guys who signed last year can grow into those guys, some of the smaller guys. And maybe some of the guys in this class may end up going into that. But I don't ever think you can sign enough defensive line. It almost turned out this year where the defensive line was like the offensive line last year, where you wish you could have got that one more guy or an extra guy. But we're certainly pretty tapped out as far as our numbers.
Kirby, now that you've had a full year, second year, really recruiting as a head coach, what procedural, philosophical changes did you run into this year compared to last year?
As far as recruiting,
Yes.
I think just quality control of official visits, managing things more efficiently, making sure that we're applying to the customer all the time. I always relate it to Chick-fil-A. There's a long line there. What do? They come out and take your order. We don't want long lines. We want to avoid that. We want good customer service. We're always trying to find a way to do it better than the other guy. We listen. It's the number one thing we do. We talk to parents. We find out what they like about other visits. And we also do a lot of things in-house, from who's watching tape, who all's going to be able to evaluate kids and make the right decisions. And forecasting your roster a year ahead is really hard nowadays, because kids transfer more often than they ever have. They graduate and move more often than they ever have. And then they also can come out for the draft. So what your team looks like, snapshot now and snapshot next year, can change pretty quick.
Kirby, I'm not asking you to compare this class with your first full cycle at Alabama that had Ingram and Julio and Marcel, but I am wondering, what can you learn lessons from that? Did you and Nick, did y'all kind of wipe the slate clean after that class, and what kind of lessons can you learn from what transpired after that first full cycle at Alabama?
Well, the first lesson is really good players play really good. And when you get really good players, which we don't really know for sure until they've been there, and that class may have been one of the most productive classes I've ever been around, just top to bottom. But as far as wiping the slate clean, I can't say to that effect. I think that each year has a history and life of its own, and you recruit each year independent of the other. The challenges are different each year, because just like next year, it'll be a challenge recruiting O-linemen. Why? You're trying 6, right? So it's very important that you do a good job explaining your needs, and they do a good job of understanding there's more to it than just a depth chart. This university is a pretty special place to me. You can get a great education here, and you get coached by some pretty good people.
Kirby, with everything coming back on defense next year, would you consider using any time in the spring to see if a couple of the early enrollees like D'Angelo or Richard could maybe see any action on offense this fall?
I wouldn't consider that right now, because we got to get better on defense first and foremost. I mean, just because people are coming back doesn't mean you can't improve. We certainly think those players can make us better, and we don't have everybody back. We lost a MVP, really quality player in our nickel who played 75% of our snaps. So somebody's going to have to replace him, and that's a unique challenge that we lost. Not only him, but we lost his backup. So when you lose 2 people at that same position, it's a very critical position. We'll have to find somebody ready to fit that role.
Coach, kind of a similar question there. I mean, you signed 7 guys, I think, total that can play corner, safety, kind of that combo. I mean, you got a guy like Miko Hardman over there. Is there any chance, you guys may be able to, with the numbers you signed this year, play him a little bit more on, or look at him getting the ball in his hands a little bit more, or anything like that?
That's certainly a good thought. It's been talked about. The problem we have right now is, we have a deficient team in corner, and Miko Hardman is corner, and we got 4 guys for the spring. So it's not a situation where we're going to be able to throw guys out there at corner and move him around. And he was developing nicely at corner, and we want him to continue to do that. But we'll have to find ways to get Miko the ball or use him more on defense, because he's certainly a skilled athlete.
Hey Kirby, what was this last sort of 24, 48 hours for you? Was it more hectic than usual? And then secondly, looking at the length and the size of these DBs, somebody like you would not sign here anymore.
You're right.
What's that transition been like for y'all to get the bigger DBs, the longer DBs?
Well, the second question first. I definitely wouldn't sign here. I wouldn't sign me ever, so let's get that out of the way. But I do think that longer DBs are the trend. Now, foot quickness becomes a problem with length. Can he move quick enough to cover quick, fast receivers? But so many of the wide receivers we face and we struggle with have length. So when you play against length, you want a guy with length. And uniquely, we were able to get some guys that we thought had good length to help in this class. And I think that's a trend across the country. I really like getting DBs that can play multiple positions. They can be corners, they can be nickels, they can move inside, they can play safety. A lot of the good players I've been around, that's what they were able to do. So that's a big part of it. What was the first part?
24 hours, 48 hours.
Yeah.
Normal?
I'd say normal, but normal chaos. I mean, it's always chaos at that time because there's a lot of moving parts. People are doing this, that, you're relying on somebody else's information. You find a lot out about the people surrounding these kids in the last 24 to 48 hours because they're getting pulled in a lot of directions. And then when everything goes silent and everything goes quiet, you find out who's in your corner and who's not right there at the end.
When you're able to take a breath and think about the next year and sort of where you're headed overall as a program, how much in alignment do you think things are with the recruiting aspect, the facility aspect, the administrative aspect of where you want to be eventually?
Well, I think it's a step-by-step process. I think the number one thing is, number one to me has always been recruiting and development. Recruiting and development. To develop the players, you got to have good facilities to do that, but you also got to have good players to develop. So getting these young men, which that's what today's about, giving them recognition that they chose to come to the University of Georgia, it's a big part, it's a big step. Because I do believe in getting good football players in here. I think this group is a good group. It's a competitive group. It's a loyal group. When you say 12 guys took one official visit, 12 guys won state championships, I think that you can speak volumes to the group as a whole, not just what a number is by their name or a number by their class. That's important to you guys. That's not as important to me, the ranking, as it is what kind of kids these young men are.
I don't believe you've been asked yet about DeAndres. When Coach Chaney was asked about him earlier and talked about how excited he is just to get him here, what do you see from him and what he brings to that group?
Man, a great competitor, a great kid. I mean, a guy that loves the University of Georgia. I mean, to be on the end of the phone with him when he found out that Nick and Sonny were staying, you mean unfazed. I mean, that's awesome, Coach. I get to learn from 2 of the best. I mean, how many kids in America would say that today? And he was unfazed by it, and he really believes he's going to come in and contribute and help. Certainly a lot of return yards missing off this team. We hope he's able to help with that. We know that he can flex out, play in the slot. He's got a little bit of Sony in him, he's got a little bit of Nick in him, which I think is a good mixture. And the most important thing is he comes from a wonderful family, and he is a fierce competitor. And I look forward to having him on our team.
Coach Smart, you discussed earlier about keeping these boys in state, but what does that mean?